No refunds once you've stepped out of the store? Fine, I won't step out of the store. This happens in a large store in a European country. When you purchase something from them, and for any reason want to return the item, their policy is that they never give money back. They only give you a voucher redeemable same day only. I went to the store today and purchased quite a long list of items. I got home, my wife looks at them and says that we don't need some of them. I go back to the store, barely 20 minutes pass. Their returns manager smiles at me as I tell her I just purchased these and would like to return them. She tells me that I stepped out of the store, so she can't refund. Only give me a voucher and I must buy something else. I'd already bought everything I needed. Then she tells me to take the products home and keep them. For the next time I would need to buy something, then I can come and get the voucher and redeem it. Imagine keeping a pair of shoes in a bowl and remember to bring them with you the next time you happen to need something. I tried to reason, but she was adamant. Those are Rethi rules. You stepped out of the store, you don't get a refund. And then it clicked. I asked, so if someone wants to return an item without leaving the store, they get the money back? Yes. You see where this is heading. Malicious compliance kicking in. I asked to return the items and get the voucher. I take the voucher, get inside the store, find a product to exactly same amount. Buy it with the voucher. Right after the cashier, there's the returns manager. Straight from the cashier, I go to her. Hand her that random product I just bought and say, I would like to return this, I don't want it. And I never left the store. She is looking at me with barely contained rage in her eyes, I kid you not. The awkward pause was getting longer. And then her manager comes along. Looks at us and I smile at him and say, I never left the store and I would like to get a refund for this please. He nods. Silent and not looking at me, she proceeds to refund me the money in cash. Company policy, right? Stepdad tried to punish me without hearing me out. I did what he asked. As long as I could remember, my sister, who was 2 years younger than me, would come up and hit me for no reason and often started fights with me. My parents started telling me that I would just have to hit her back because I'm stronger, so she would stop once she realized I would hurt her worse. Fast forward to me being 16, my sister was 14. We're sitting on the love seat in the living room, with my stepdad across from us, asleep on the couch at 3 p.m. She hits me because I won't get up and get her a drink. I hit her back. She screams because I don't usually hit her back. My stepdad wakes up and starts yelling at her for being loud and demands to know what happened. She said I hit her. He then turns his anger to me. He yells at me, if you want to UCK around, you can write 5 pages. Front and back, I will not bite people. If it is not done before dinner, I'm gonna take your phone and books. I made it clear that I hit her, not bit her, but he got even more angry and screamed, if you think you're so smart, then write 10 pages front and back. He went back to sleep on the couch. I wrote 5 pages front and back. I will not bite people unerotically. I will not bite people unconsensually. I will not bite people without asking first. I will not bite people because they are not food. Along with some other ridiculous things I don't remember. I finished 5 pages before dinner, miraculously, and he read over them. He went red in the face. I thought I told you 10 pages. He raged, you said 10 pages if I think I'm so smart. Which you don't, I innocently replied, this is not what I told you to write. Yes it is. You said to write, I will not bite people, and that's exactly what I did. My mom got home at that point and overheard. Coming to investigate, she flipped through the pages and laughed. It made him angrier as he answered her questions on the assignment and she took my side, still chuckling as we started making dinner. You want me to do what? TLDR. I kicked a guy in the nuts after he asked Mato repeatedly in 10th grade, early 90s. I.F. was standing around with classmates and friends as 10th graders tend to do. Some of the guys began joking about being kicked in the jewels. One of the guys said that had never happened to him, so, naturally, the other guys called him a liar and began teasing him. Because 10th graders often lack a reasonable sense of caution, the teased guy started asking the girls to kick him in the jewels. One by one the other girls said no, and pushed him away. Now a little about me. I was not like other girls at my high school. I was from a bad home that appeared to be amazing. I had long ago lost my last duck and was already a straight shooter. So guy gets to me, asks me to kick him in the jewels. I asked him if he was serious. He stated he was. I asked him if he was sure. He stated he was. I asked him to ask me specifically for what he wanted me to do. He did, including the fact he wanted it to be a hard kick. Again I asked if he was sure. After making sure everyone else heard that, I told him to get ready. With one swift swing of my foot I made hard contact, exactly where and how he asked for. Head didn't so much scream, but his eyes did roll back and he fell over throwing up. Everyone went insane. The other guys flinched hard, one also threw up. I won't say I regretted doing it, but I will say I felt a little bad for his response. Eventually he got up, I asked if he was alright, he nodded and squeaked out that he was okay and went to sit down. Later, a few days later, he was sitting down outside and waved me over. He said he doesn't hold anything against me because he literally asked for it. Then he asked me out, but I still had a boyfriend and turned him down. In hindsight and many years later, I think that could have been one hell of a How I Met Your Mother type story. He ended up marrying a lovely lady and having a family, so thankfully I didn't break his jewels. Manager tried throwing me under the bus, so I showed everyone her incompetence. I recently resigned from a toxic workplace as a data analyst at a startup. It was promising at the start, but not long after I noticed many red flags, including the fact that my manager had absolutely no data analysis or management experience prior to being promoted. How can you manage analysts without knowing basic Excel functions? I ignored those red flags and trusted her leadership because I liked the company's goals. Little did I know this would be the worst decision ever. I basically did all the work for the team for the whole year I was there. When I ran the numbers for reporting and analysis of team performance, she always asked me to dumb it down so she can present it to high-level management. I thought everything was going well because I only got good feedback from her and the rest of the team. About a month ago, a coworker who I don't get along with made a complaint about me which was absolutely untrue. Manager believed it without investigating, and all of a sudden I was placed on a PIP. She spouted all types of lies to HR, and when I refuted those claims with written evidence, they doubled down and started gaslighting me. You're just too negative. I refused to sign and was threatened with termination, so I complied and started building a case against them. I knew she was doing the PIP to terminate me as she looked for internal candidates to replace me in secret because she was dumb enough to set the meeting up beside me. Once I signed my contract for a new job, I did basically UCK all and started working from home. Before my resignation, she asked me to do some reporting for her, so I ran the numbers and sent her raw data, told her where the files were located and that she can analyze the data and make the presentation herself. Since she's the data analyst manager, she should know how to do it. She tried reporting me for that, but ultimately backfired, because they asked her if the work that I did was actually wrong, and was forced to admit she didn't know what she was looking at. Everything else in the team was questioned, and I believe they are now being audited by an external investigator. Credibility destroyed. I'm now working for a manager who is competent on DOS clear goals for the team, but that was a hell of a ride. Small win against toxic management. Buddha win is a win. Edit. PIP is a performance improvement plan. It is used by managers to address underperformance and start a documentation process. Usually used as a first step to fire someone or phase them out. Leave the floor wet? Alright, enjoy your rotten wood. First time posting here because I just remembered this incident. Back in the early my mother, 40, F, worked as a cleaner for a couple places and took me, 13, M, with her to help. One place we worked for was the only real estate place in town. We cleaned up before the people who worked there got in. When I started there, it was small and somewhat dirty. Old smelly cubicle partitions in faded brown, off-color walls, ingrained dirt in the linoleum. We cleaned and I literally couldn't tell the difference after we were done, except the mirror in the washroom not having any spots on it and the floor being wet from the fresh mopping. Then the town started becoming a cottage town and it is decided that they will move to a nicer place. Cottagers might find the griminess a little off-putting. New place had a bit more space, brand new blue cubicle partitions, newly painted walls that still smelled the first day I cleaned in there, and a cheap hardwood panel floor. That floor was a bit of a problem. See, before, when we mopped, we would just leave the water to dry on the linoleum. We could do that, because we got there at approximately 630H and they opened at 730H. The place was small enough that it was mopped be around 700H before we left and would be mostly dry by the time people arrived. If we did the same thing for this cheap wood floor, my mother was worried we would have water seep into the cracks between the wood panels and rot them, so a new method for mopping was devised. First I dunk the mop, then wring the mop lightly, mop up, wring the mop again but fully this time, and the end mop up as much of the excess water as possible. This new method actually visibly got a lot more water off the floor. By the time we left, some of the earlier mopped areas would look mostly dry. Good solution, Mom. Couple weeks into the new place, my mother gets contacted by the manager and a new order comes in that we are not to dry the floor. I asked if she explained why we dried it. She had. I found this order a bit baffling at the time, and it only occurred to me today the reason why he ordered this. The manager got in earlier than everyone else at about 715H, so I actually saw him a few rare times. When we ran late, the old floor would have still been visibly wet in the old place when he got in. The new floor was now dry when he got in. Ipso facto, we must have decided to skip mopping to leave early. Even though I didn't understand at the time that he thought we weren't doing our job, I, of course, found this new order stupid. I thought, he wants the floors wet when he gets in? Fine. Cue malicious compliance. You see, I did the mopping while my mom cleaned the washroom because I was young strapping lad and she was mom, so I did what she said. I now had a standing order from the boss to leave a wet floor and, by gum, it was gonna be sopping. From that day forth, not only did I not dry the floor, I now didn't even wring the mop after dunking it. I dipped it in the water and just let water slop off of the mop as I pulled it directly out of the bucket. There was no way this was gonna dry before he got in. Probably not for an hour after he got in either. 2 weeks after I started doing this, lo and behold, the wood paneling is already starting to separate at the seams. Dirt is accumulating between tiles. It proves impossible to remove. I was a bit shocked at the time at how fast that had happened. 4 weeks into the new mopping routine, the floor was rotting. Was my mother psychic or what? It was apparently very cheap fiberboard with a paper-than-plastic wood grain pattern on it. I would have guessed a laminate wood grain on top of semi-waterproof fiberboard if you'd asked me 4 weeks ago. The floor now had visible divots and lines where the plastic paper sank into the deteriorating wood underneath. These trapped dirt in them as well. How classy! The floor, not even 2 months after they had moved into the new place, was even worse than the old beat-up linoleum one. At this point I asked my mother if we should start drying the floor, and wouldn't you know it, she had already asked. The answer was no. Leave it wet. Baffling. We cleaned there for another month or so. I barely felt safe walking on the floor as it was a now tripping hazard with warped parts popping up. It was also disintegrating. Splinters of wood would pop off every time I swept. The floor now had the dubious distinction of being the worst floor I had seen in a place that wasn't dilapidated. TLDR, manager says to leave floor wet after mopping. We do, the floor rots, warps, and disintegrates.